Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Awakening Summit. I am Kayleigh O'Keefe, CEO and founder of Soul Excellence Ventures, and I am so happy to be back. And I'm joined this afternoon by Saskia Esslinger. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So excited to have you here. Saskia is a lifelong gardener, an expert in permaculture, which don't worry if you don't know what that word means yet. I didn't either, but she's going to tell us what it means. She also grows her own food and lives with her two boys in Homer, Alaska. So let's just start right there because I think we couldn't be in polar opposite places. I'm going to just look. It's 84 degrees in South Florida with 80% humidity, so it feels like 93. So that's what's going on here. What's it like where you are today?
Oh my gosh, it actually warmed up a little bit. So last week we had way below freezing temperatures, and today it's just above freezing. So it's balmy and warm. I was actually able to harvest some carrots out of the ground yesterday, and last week they were completely frozen in. So it's pretty exciting.
All right, we are definitely living in the two extremes, but both feeling a bit balmy today in our respective hometowns.
That's right.
Well, it was such a joy reading your chapter. Your writing is so beautiful. It's so vivid. And I really feel like it comes from the work that you do, which is being in nature and helping us all to nourish our bodies. So you have been a lifelong gardener. I just want to start there and have you share with us what prompted your interest and how has it led you to where you are today?
Yeah, well, my dad was actually the gardener in our family, and my grandpa was also a big gardener, and his dad was. So it's kind of been passed through the generations, and I just grew up eating these amazing vegetables, and I didn't really understand how good I had it until I went off to college and had to eat dorm food.
Oh, no.
And yeah, it was horrible. It was like the worst of the worst. But even when I got my own place and was cooking my own food, I would buy broccoli in the store, and it just didn't taste anything like the broccoli that I was used to. And so I started looking into well, why is that? And that just led me down an entire huge rabbit hole of how our food is produced and how bad it is for the environment. And then these alternatives, ways that we can do it better.
You just had me thinking about college and how excited I was to have unlimited Chinese food and pizza and bagels. Yep, I know they call it the freshman 15, but I think it was more like 20.
Yeah.
So take us back to, I mentioned the word permaculture. I certainly hadn't heard about it before reading your chapter. What is it? And we'll kind of go from there into the work that you do, but what is this?
Yeah, so permaculture it's basically a design science that was developed down in Australia in the 70s. And it's the conjunction of two words, permanent and agriculture. And it's basically a way of having not just sustainable agriculture, but regenerative agriculture. So an agriculture that actually heals the earth.
Oh, okay. There we go.
Yeah, it heals the earth instead of just staying on the same level. So sustainable means that it can just go on, but regenerative means it gets better over time. So it's super exciting. And, basically the founders of permaculture distilled the natural principles that make nature work, whether it be a forest or a grassland, or the succession from the grassland to the forest. And what makes nature work? And how can we use those same principles in our gardens to heal the earth, to grow food for us? And the more they looked into it, the more that they realized that these principles apply not only to agriculture, but to our lives as a whole. All of life abides by these natural principles. And so it's actually really exciting because now we can use these principles to create regenerative lives and not just sustainable lives. These lives can get better and better all the time.
I think you've just introduced kind of a new, this whole summit has been about new paradigms, and we talk a lot about sustainability as conscious leaders and conscious entrepreneurs. And I feel like you're injecting or providing even, the next goalpost or the next awakening, or the next paradigm of it's actually maybe beyond sustainable. There's this notion of regenerative.
Yes. Yes. Think about how we can grow and become better as people. I mean, we've been talking a lot about that in these interviews and in this book. How can we really grow to our fullest potential? And that is regenerative growth, right? And we can do that in our businesses. We can have regenerative growth in our business. In fact, my master's degree is in regenerative entrepreneurship. So how can we have these businesses that make the world a better place? Super exciting.
So let's dig into, just one of the ways that you do that, which is you don't just garden for yourself or provide for your family, but you've been teaching people for a really long time how to garden. So breaking it down for a city slicker like me who has a balcony in a location, what are some of the misconceptions about gardening? And then we're going to dig into what are some of the things that can offer people even beyond just the provision of much better food.
Yeah. Oh, that's so much to unpack. So, gosh, misconceptions about gardening are that is that it's super simple. You just put a seed in the ground and it grows. And while that is kind of true, there is a lot behind it that there is to know in order to be able to nourish these seeds. So one of the biggest things is that people think that we are growing plants, but we don't grow the plants. We actually nurture the soil, and the soil life grows the plants. So we have to become farmers of microbes in the soil in order to have successful gardens. And if we do that, if we are successful at having a healthy soil, then our plants will grow. And there is a lot to know about how to become a microbe farmer, because you've probably never even thought of that before. But interestingly enough, it's these microbes that are the key to healthy food. And they're the reason why industrial agriculture is not working for us. And it is growing toxic food because that food is not fed by microbes. It's fed by artificial fertilizer. And so we don't have the full gamut of nutrients in our food that we need. And we don't have those microorganisms actually need to be in the food that we eat. And a lot of the food that you buy in the grocery store, even if it was grown organically, a lot of times it's irradiated. And so it kills everything in the food to make it last longer. And then it doesn't have the microbes in it anymore. Yeah, it's really interesting. So I love to do fermentation, and my boys especially, they love fermented green beans. And so one time I bought some green beans at Costco. I was like, oh, these look beautiful. They're perfect for fermented green beans. And I tried to ferment them and they would not ferment because they don't have the natural bacteria on them that they need to ferment. Whoa. So what does that tell you about when it goes into your gut? It tells you that this is not living food. It's not going to nourish you in the same way that living food does. It's dead.
Well, you know that I told you in our prep call, like you just radiate so much enthusiasm and deep knowledge. And I love everything that you're sharing with us. I've written down, like you've at least given us 3 paradigm shifts, agriculture to permaculture, sustainable to regenerative, and then grow food to like nurture the soil, create the conditions. Like my mind is being blown.
I know. It is so exciting. And it's so cool because these things are like, if you think about it, they can all be applied on so many different levels and to so many different things, even to your city slicker, in your life, in your business, and everything that you're doing, it applies. And then once you start sinking your hands into the soil and really getting in touch with nature and these cycles and the truths of what's happening, the results cascade into every area of your life. Like the lessons just come over and over again, and you start to work with the cycles of the seasons. You start to work with the natural principles, and everything starts falling into place.
I really want to shift in just a second to start talking more about the green thumb and the work that you're doing with people around the globe. But I do want to just hit on one point that you shared, which is there's also this misconception that, you know, we plant a seed, or like we we value teachers and coaches in a lot of areas of our lives, but when it comes to gardening, we're like, we got this. Where does that come from? And then I guess what's the case to be made of like, maybe you don't got this, you know? And there is a lot to learn here.
Right. So there's several things going on here. One is that it is in our DNA to garden and grow food. Like, this is what our ancestors have done for millennia. And in the last couple generations, we've completely outsourced that. So we've said, okay, you all grow the food for me, and I will go on and do other more important things. And so we've become disconnected from it, and we've lost a lot of the essential skills that we need in order to grow this food. We've lost the connection with nature. We've lost the know-how, all the little practices that you need in order to have a successful garden. We just don't know about them. Yeah. So that's a huge thing. I was going to say something else and now I'm forgetting, but it's just like this connection to the earth that we've forgotten. And we think that we can just, put the seeds in the ground and they'll grow, but we've forgotten what we don't know. And so we feel like this is just an innate thing that everyone grew like a pea in a cup in kindergarten, you know, and they feel like, okay, I should just be able to do that. But there is so much to know to have a successful garden, and it's so worth it to have help in learning how to do that, to reconnect yourself to the earth and to what's happening in the soil and to what the plants need and what the soil needs.
You now just made me think of the lima bean. That was probably the last thing that I ever grew, you know, and I don't even think you put in water. You just wrap the wet paper towel around and like see it sprout. So I am starting from scratch. So I'm going to need a lot of help.
Yeah. No worries. And some people think that, you know, gardening is just, you have a green thumb or you have a brown thumb. And my thing is that, no, you know, if you've never been taught how to garden, of course you would have a brown thumb. You don't know how to grow things, but anyone can be taught to grow things. Anyone. And it's not some innate ability. It's just a skill that you learn, like pottery or business or any of these things. You know, some people might have a little more of a natural touch, but that doesn't mean that you can't learn it. Nobody is helpless when it comes to gardening. If you have an interest, you can learn it.
And I think there's just something really special in what you said of like the desires in our DNA, you know, it is part of who we are. And so now it's actually about bringing it out, cultivating it, and recognizing that it is a skill, there is a science, there is also so much we have to learn of creating the conditions and then trusting things will work, you know, and forces bigger than us. So I want to talk more about the Green Thumb, which is the name for, you know, one of the programs that you run, and just talk to us about how you take all of your knowledge and all of your experience and start translating that and sharing that with I want to say like with the next generation of people who are becoming aware of how they want to live their lives and how important the food is that nourishes them to do just that.
Yeah, exactly. So when I first started teaching gardening 10 years ago, I would do just one-off workshops, you know, come and learn about composting or come and learn about this. And what I found was that people didn't understand the basics of gardening, and to learn just one aspect of it without putting it in the context of all the other things that you need to know wasn't all that useful for them. So what I did was I developed this summer-long hands-on course that people could come to my property and learn to garden hands-on. And that was great. It was really useful for people to come and have a regular time where they would get together with other people and learn to garden and do stuff on my property and then go home and do it on their own. And then a couple years ago, I actually ended up moving and transitioning my course online, because what I found was that if we did it online, then we could actually go year round. And there is so much to know that it's really hard to fit it all into a summer when everybody's super busy, especially up in Alaska. Everybody's out playing during the summertime. Yeah, they're like, oh my God, it's sunny, I got to get outside. And so everybody gets overcommitted, and it's really hard enough to just keep up with your garden. So if we can learn all the things, that the background stuff, the design work, the soil science, all of that in the wintertime, then by the springtime, we're ready to go. We're ready to plant our gardens early, and we're ready to get going right away, and we know kind of what to do. And then during the summer, I can just walk you through what you need to know right then to plant your garden, troubleshoot any problems, keep it healthy, and all of that stuff. So it's been a really amazing course. We meet once a week, and so there's this weekly check-in now, but because they don't have to come to the my house, it's not as big of a time commitment each week. And what can happen is that people are seeing these amazing transformations, not just with their gardens, but also like they're looking at life in an entirely different way through this permaculture lens. And they're starting to see solutions instead of problems. They're starting to see the opportunities everywhere, and they're starting to just really blossom in so many different ways.
So I want to ask you and your son, I'll ask you both, what's your favorite thing to grow?
What's my favorite thing to grow? Rylan, do you want to say what your favorite thing to grow is?
Potatoes, carrots. No, you like to grow flowers, huh?
Yeah.
Which kind? This is Rylan.
Hi, Rylan.
Hi.
You don't know?
So you like to grow flowers. What else do you like to grow?
Sunflowers.
Giant sunflowers. Yeah, flowers, I used to overlook flowers in favor of vegetables, but flowers feed the soul, and they're so important to just have that beauty in our life. But I have to say that my favorite thing to grow here in Alaska is carrots, because they are so sweet and tender and delicious. Oh my God. I've never tasted a grocery store carrot that tastes anything like what I pull out of the ground.
All right. Well, I already wanted to come visit you in Alaska, but now I definitely do, because I have such a sweet tooth. But when I'm just eating vegetables, like you'll find me eating a lot of carrots as a result, because they're just so good. So I can't even imagine what yours taste like.
Oh my God. They are like candy. It's unbelievable.
So good. So for people who are kind of thinking about, how do I get started with gardening? What are the first few things I really need to know or think about? What are some initial ideas or tips of like, here's how to get started, how not to overwhelm yourself in the early days of embarking on this journey of especially growing your own food?
Yeah. So my biggest, I have a couple of big suggestions. No, not right now, sweetheart. My biggest suggestions are to start small. A lot of times people try to go too big, and they just overwhelm themselves. And the second thing is to get a mentor or someone to help you walk through those first steps, because a lot of times people put gardens in the wrong spot. They just build a garden that looks like their neighbors without even really understanding what the best shape or kind of garden is for their area. And the gardens that I teach are not cookie cutter gardens. Every garden is going to look different for every person, because every person's different. Every site is different. So it's so, so important to really design a garden that's going to work for you on your site. And you can't do that from looking at a book. Not necessarily. It's hard. It's much easier if you have somebody that can walk you through the process. We learn best in connection. When we have connection with other people, we learn much faster than reading the books and trying to absorb all the knowledge that way. So yeah, so that's what I would suggest. Get a mentor, start small, for sure.
Before I ask you beyond next steps, how individuals watching this call can work with you, connect with you directly, I'd just love to know what's kind of the most unique or weirdest or coolest site that you've seen someone build a garden before? Like maybe a site that didn't think like anything could grow here, and now it's like, whew, flourishing.
Gosh, let's see. Well, when I got my property up in Anchorage about 13 years ago, it was a dilapidated duplex that had a horrible yard. It was like one of those yards that even the grass was having a hard time growing. And we turned that into this little oasis. It was a little urban micro farm, which was just amazing. So I would say that would be one of like my biggest success stories was that. Right now, I am just gardening on a rented piece of property. So even if you don't own your property, it's still possible to grow a big garden and to grow a lot of your own food. I've been here for 3 summers now, and every year I've expanded the gardens, made it bigger, and made it more productive, and so that it's providing more of our own food. I also have a student that's over in Switzerland, and she has she's living in a duplex, and then she rents the yard from another person that's right behind her. And so she's got a really interesting situation and she's just doing amazing things. Definitely challenging the Swiss notions of how to garden, and creating like raised eyebrows from her neighbors, but yet they all are just amazed at what she's doing.
Well, I think it must be true. Like, they say in the entertainment world, if you can make it in New York, you can make it anywhere. And so I feel like if you can make a garden in Alaska in a dilapidated backyard using your techniques, like anyone watching, you can do it where you are. Absolutely.
Yeah. I mean, Alaska's not quite the frozen wasteland that everybody thinks it is.
All right, that's a lower 48 misconception.
Right. But it is challenging growing here for many reasons. We have really cool summers that, at least where I'm at, they don't get very warm at all. And so really trying to get things, you really just have to grow what grows well here. And the lucky thing is that the things that grow well here also are the things that store well over the winter time. So I'm eating from my garden year round. Definitely. I grow my own tea. I grow my own herbs. I grow a significant portion of our vegetables. And towards the end of spring, I might be buying a few things here and there, but in general, I mean, apples, fruit, berries. We had 26 gallons of raspberries from our property this year. Yeah. So my freezer is packed. I have a huge chest freezer, and it's packed with food, as well as ferments and stuff down in the cellar, and dried things. I make a lot of fruit leather. So I just know that I'm going to be eating so well this winter, and feeding my kids this amazing food that is so good for them, so good for their health. Yeah. And it's food that you cannot buy. You cannot buy this food that this is this quality. And I've been there. In between having my little urban homestead in Anchorage and living here in Homer, I was traveling for 2 years, and I had to shop in the grocery store, and I was just shocked at the food.
And you were, yeah.
Yeah, I was beside myself. I'm like, I can't live like this. I cannot believe that everyone does this. How can we all living on this food, which is not real food? So I knew I had to come back and plant my garden again and sink my roots in deep. And from now on, I love traveling, but if I travel, I always have to have this home base to come back to. Yeah.
Well, as we're seeing in the comments, you're, a master at what you do. People are excited about the work that you do, have already been working with you and are seeing the results. So for those of us like me who have yet to start gardening or just want to take it to the next level, how do they find you and how can they work with you?
Yeah, so I work with people that are brand new gardeners or people that have been gardening for 40 years. I can help everybody because this is so revolutionary. But to join my course, I have rolling admissions. So you can join at any time. Right now, we're going through all the design work and the preparatory work. So this is a great time to join. Or if you want to wait till the new year, that is also a wonderful time to join. Then we'll be looking at starting seeds inside and making the micro designs for our garden and planning our gardens out and all of that stuff. So you can find me at teachgardening.com. And then if you want to jump in and see more about my work without joining the course, if you're not quite ready for that, I have a group on Facebook called The Garden Revolution. And it's free to join that. And you can just jump in and kind of get a taste for the kind of things that I'm teaching and the posts that I'm putting out there. And those are the two best ways to get a hold of me. I'm also on Instagram at Teach Gardening. So
amazing.
Yeah.
I think we all really understand why it's called the Garden Revolution. Based on our conversation today, you are very revolutionary and evolutionary, I would say, in the work that you do, how you approach it, and really just a rare combination, right, of like knowledge, passion, experience, deep kind of grounded belief in what you do, and it just really comes across, and your clients love you. So it's been an honor for me to get to know you, the awakening process from you. And so I want to say thank you, Saskia. And I also want Rylan to know that he totally aced his first cameo appearance in the National Online Summit. So make sure he knows that we appreciate him. And it was great to have you on today.
Yeah, thank you so much, Kayleigh. It's a pleasure to talk to you.
Wonderful. All right. Thanks, everyone, for joining us. Hope you're having a great time at the summit, and we'll see you soon.
Okay. Bye.